you noticed that almost every person in this generation seems to hyperfixate or have special interests? So many Gen Zers flippantly use the term hyperfixate when describing their love for their passions. In this video, we're going to discuss whether or not hyperfixations are on the rise and discuss if hyperfixating on interests really makes someone neurodivergent. I've also discovered that people seem to fall into three main categories, and determining which you fall into is beneficial for understanding yourself and others. But more on that later. Hello my mushrooms! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my cozy corner of the internet where I aim to spread autism awareness and hope through my story. Before we discuss whether or not hyperfixations are on the rise, we need a foundational understanding of what both hyperfixations and special interests are. While I occasionally use them interchangeably, hyperfixations and special interests actually are different. I will be uploading a video breaking down the differences in further detail later, which I will link above right here. But for now, here is a Venn diagram I made covering the basics. Please pause the video here if you would like to examine it. Are hyperfixations on the rise? Yes. But not as drastically as you might think. More people are getting diagnosed with autism and ADHD than years prior because we have a better understanding of both conditions, and the voices of the neurodivergent community are finally being heard. However, the numbers are not as high as they may seem. The term is simply being used more, driven by social media trends. The increased use of the term is primarily due to people using it casually rather than clinically. While the discussion of hyperfixations is increasing, this does not necessarily reflect on the rise of the actual clinical behavior. So what is actually happening? Well, the clinical term is being misused. On platforms like TikTok and Instagram, hyperfixation is often used to describe any deep interest or hobby. But this dilutes the clinical meaning, which describes an intense preoccupation that can negatively impact daily life by causing neglect of basic needs and responsibilities. Social media often simplifies complex concepts into bite-sized posts purely for engagement. And this creates the impression that hyperfixation is a new or more common trend. But please remember, neurodivergence is not a trend. The term is most often associated with neurodivergent conditions like ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. The increased online visibility has helped people with these conditions find a community and language to describe their experiences. However, this is a greater awareness of an existing phenomenon, not a rise in the behavior itself. While social media has increased awareness and provided a sense of community for neurodivergent individuals, the trivialization of the term carries risks. It can lead to harmful self-diagnosis and downplay the severity of genuine struggles with conditions like ADHD, autism, and OCD, for which hyperfixation can be a significant symptom. Please note, self-diagnosis is not necessarily harmful. It only becomes a problem when the motivation to get diagnosed is not based on a better understanding of oneself, but rather the desire to fit in with a specific community, follow a trend, or excuse disruptive behavior. So, what separates a hyperfixation and a special interest from a neurotypical fixation? I think an important distinction is how much space a fixation takes up in your brain. Here is a helpful list of questions that will help you distinguish whether or not your fixation is akin to neurodivergent fixations. Is it all you think about? Does everything else suddenly seem boring? Is it all you want to talk about, think about, or do? Does your interest last longer than your friend's interest in it? Do other people find the intensity of your interest weird? A hobby or interest differs from a fixation in duration, intensity, emotional impact, and consequences. A hobby or interest is a sustained, long-term passion, whereas a hyperfixation can last for days, months, and then disappear just as quickly. A hobby or an interest is an engaging, enjoyable activity that coexists with other life responsibilities. But a hyperfixation can be all-consuming, causing a person to lose track of time and neglect basic needs like eating or sleeping. A hobby or an interest is primarily a source of enjoyment and fulfillment. But a hyperfixation is often linked to dopamine and reward-seeking behavior, especially in those with ADHD. A hobby or an interest enriches life and often has a positive impact, while a hyperfixation can disrupt daily life, social relationships, work, and school. I think technology also plays a role in creating hyperfixations. There is a wealth of knowledge at our fingertips at all times. Gen Z is the first generation who was practically raised with a phone in their hands. Before mobile phones, people did not have the internet available to them at all times in their pocket. Autistic people could experience their special interest and then think about their special interest. That's about it. Now, there's fan fiction, articles, videos, posts, comments, subreddits, Discord servers. Oh my! Technology has drastically changed people, and it has increased people's tendency to hyperfixate by providing an infinite amount of personalized, engaging, and endlessly accessible content. The same psychological principles that drive compulsive scrolling encourage an intense, prolonged, and sometimes unhealthy focus on specific topics, people, or activities. Let's explore how. Number 1. Algorithms create addiction. As most people know by now, social media platforms use AI algorithms to feed users an endlessly, highly personalized stream of content based on their engagement history. Each like, share, or notification delivers a small amount of dopamine, a feel-good chemical that creates a reward loop and makes it difficult to disengage. The way these algorithms manipulate our brain's dopamine system can imitate ADHD symptoms, like hyperfixation, as the ADHD brain has trouble regulating dopamine production. Algorithms also prioritize content that aligns with a user's existing interests and beliefs, creating echo chambers where hyperfixation is constantly reinforced. Social media companies are already aware that their algorithms can be addictive, especially for younger users whose brains are still developing, and they use it to their advantage. Internal documents from Meta, Facebook and Instagram, for example, reveal that platforms are designed to exploit adolescents' emotional resilience to maximize screen time for profit. That's disgusting. Number 2. Accessible, endless information. The vast amount of information available on the internet makes it easy to fall into rabbit holes of research, where hours pass unnoticed while exploring a single topic. While sometimes productive, this can also lead to neglect of daily responsibilities like work, sleep, and hygiene, much like hyperfixations. At the same time, our devices are designed to interrupt our attention. Constant alerts from social media, emails, and apps train our brains to expect these distractions. This fragmented attention makes it more challenging to maintain sustained focus on non-digital tasks, making high-stimulation digital content even more appealing. Number 3. Parasocial relationships. Social media, live streaming, and video platforms allow for the formation of parasocial relationships, which are one-sided emotional bonds with public figures like influencers and celebrities. While there's nothing wrong with admiring people on a screen, some people develop intense and sometimes unhealthy attachments to online personalities. This can be a form of escapism that can lead to social isolation and hyperfixation on a person's image rather than real-world relationships. Number 4. Consequences of tech-driven hyperfixations. Intense absorption in digital activity can lead to neglecting other obligations. For a student, this might mean procrastinating on homework to play a video game. For an adult, it may mean ignoring chores to binge watch a series. When a hyperfixation takes over, it can also cause
emotional damage.
After the initial pleasure wears off, people may experience guilt, shame, and increased anxiety about the time they've lost. The normalization of parasocial relationships and the constant appeal of online content can reduce the time and energy spent on real-world connections. This can lead to feelings of loneliness and make it harder to tolerate the complex emotions involved with face-to-face communication. And on that note, it's finally time to talk about the 3 categories of people who share this trait. Number 1. Neurodivergent people. You're autistic, ADHD, or OCD. This is the most obvious category, as most neurodivergent people can relate with having special interests and/or hyperfixations. Something I've noticed about a lot of neurodivergent people is that when they aren't fixated on something, they experience depressive episodes. And I'm not talking about depression itself. I'm referring to periods of situational depression, or short-term bouts of depression that are caused by a stressful life event or in this case, a lack of a special interest or hyperfixation. I can certainly relate to that. The point is, I think an important distinction between neurodivergent people and neurotypical people who hyperfixate is that a lack of hyperfixation causes depressive episodes. If you hyperfixate on your interests, and they even become a part of your identity, but your brain isn't literally fueled by having a hyperfixation, then you probably aren't neurodivergent. Number 2, neurotypicals who emulate hyperfixation. You seemingly fixate on your interests, but you don't have depressive episodes between. This pattern may reflect a neurotypical response influenced by social media, which often encourages continuous engagement with hobbies or interests. There is always more content to consume, and with each dopamine hit you get, your interest consumes you more. The abundance of material to consume can naturally lead to more frequent and intense involvement. So, long story short, you obsess over the internet endlessly because there is an endless supply in the first place. And this is a part of social media's design. How do you fix this? Moving on. Number 3, neurotypicals with a neurodivergent streak. If you hyperfocus on your interests and have depressive episodes when you're not fixated, but you're not autistic or ADHD, you've likely got a neurodivergent streak. This isn't an official term, I created it myself. Hyperfixations or special interests don't make someone autistic or ADHD. Neither diagnosis requires you to have special interests or hyperfixations. Having special interests is one of 4 points under Category B for ASD, and it's not required. Hyperfixations isn't even mentioned in the DSM-5 criteria for ADHD. It's just a really common experience for ADHDers. Every person on this planet is unique, and since you don't have to hyperfixate to be autistic or ADHD, it would stand to reason that you're not necessarily neurodivergent just because you hyperfixate. However, since it is a neurodivergent streak, you might want to consider looking into different neurotypes to see if you are neurodivergent. If this is one of the only traits you relate with, though, it could just be part of how your brain is wired. Not even the textbooks know everything. Science at its core is about discovery, so maybe we haven't found your specific neurotype yet. Who knows? What are your thoughts on the rise of hyperfixations? If you hyperfixate, which of the 3 categories do you fall into? If you enjoyed this video and you would like to become a mushroom among wildflowers, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel or my blog. Both would be appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.